Well, hello and welcome to another bookish video from the Mouse Diva.
Moving pictures. Hello there, moving pictures.
What's up, Doc?
I've been all around the world. Every city, every place. Always been a restless girl.
I've decided to do things a little different in 2025. So I haven't put up very many like reading wrap-up videos, and that's because it's like it seems like I don't have the time to sit down and go through every book that I've read in a month and give you the review, that type of thing. So I got to thinking, I'm like, well, if I when I finish the book, go ahead and film the wrap-up of that book, then I'll just combine them all together at the start of the next month. I have a reading wrap-up vlog already filmed. Doesn't that make sense? So I am going to start this off with The Book of Doors. Now, this is not the first book that I read in 2025. I actually have already read 2 of them. However, I started this book in 2024, and after I read the first 2, which you've already got a review on, that is Life Impossible by Matt Haig. That was in my Up All Night, Once Upon a Book Club Up All Night video. That's what I received in that book. That box was like a New Year's Eve box. And then I finished my very first all these subscription box names. Like I'm getting them all like, mixed up. Then my first Book of the Month Club purchase. It was a very short book. It was under 200 pages, and I finished that one. So when I finished that one, I started on my next book that I was going to read for 2025. And I got maybe 100 pages into that, and then I remembered that I had already started this and was 3/4 of the way done in 2024. So I have now finished Book of Doors by Gareth Brown. This is a debut novel. It is a contemporary fantasy. So we have the main character, Cassie, who works at a bookstore. There's an older gentleman. He's a regular in there, and he comes in and he sits and he reads. They have some conversations. Well, unfortunately, one day he dies right there in the bookstore, and there is a book there, and he leaves her this book, and she can't figure out why. Well, it ends up that this book is a magical book, hence Book of Doors. That kind of gives you a hint of what is going on. I really enjoyed the characters in this book. He really brought them out, their personalities out. And I did rate this book 4 stars. For the most part, I was thoroughly engaged. There were times where, of course, I couldn't even put it down. But then there was a couple times where it was like, we're out in left field here. Like, what is going on? Like, are you just trying to make the book longer? And then it did kind of come full circle. It just took a while sometimes for it to come full circle. Would I recommend this book to people? I gave it 4 stars, sure. Is it oh my gosh, go out and read it right now? Not necessarily. I do want to point out a couple things. I am one of these people that reads the acknowledgments. Like, I read everything. And I want to read the very end. He has basically a 3-page acknowledgement. And at the end, he says, "Thanks also to Dougal and Flora for making me laugh every day. They won't read this because they're dogs, but they'll know. Dogs always know." I really kind of like that quote. Also, a little bit about him. Under the about the author. So, when not working or writing, Gareth loves traveling, especially the whirlwind first few hours in a new city. If you did not know, I have a family YouTube channel called Life's a Whirlwind. Would love for you to go check that out. It has a lot of traveling on it, and then, you know, family vlogs. He enjoys barbecues, playing pool, and falling asleep in front of the television like an old man. I'm gonna cut to some physical aspects of the book. I love the end pages here with all the different doors, some with the sun, some with the moon. Each chapter has a little graphic of a door, and then there's actually like parts of the book, and they have their own little like title page with more doors. The Wild Inside. I am on page 98, and since every other vlog on this channel is a Disney vlog, I have to read you this part of the book. It says, are you kidding? Plenty, but it's not like I didn't hit him back. We weren't exactly your average Disney family. In the book, she's just talking about how, you know, this family's rough around the edges. They have their problems, and there was some violence in the family. So that's why she's saying, you know, we weren't your typical Disney family. Okay, read this, and I never knew that, so we all know that, you know, Booker T. Washington's son, Booker T. Washington Jr., right? We know about him. But he was actually born Baker T. Washington. And Baker later changed his name to Booker T. Washington Jr. I love learning little facts like that. So I'm on chapter 8, Roosevelt the Reformer. And they're talking about Benjamin Harrison. I did not know that they called him Little Ben and that he was only 5'6". All right, those of you that follow me on Instagram saw this. So I polled you guys and I said, which one of these books should I read? Gave you a couple, you know, clues from the icons. And oh my gosh, I am so glad that you guys picked The Frozen River. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, so this is almost a 400-page book. Or maybe it is a 400-page book. Yes, it is over 400 pages. And I could not put it down. I finished this book in 3 nights, and I read the books. I don't listen to them, I read them. I worked all 3 of those days, but I was able to finish this chunker in 3 days because it was so good. Just looked down and happened to notice that it was NPR's best book of 2023. So first of all, I also just realized that this woman wrote a book called Codename Helena. I don't know what that's about, but that's like already scary just because, you know, I live in North Carolina, Western North Carolina mountains, and we had a lot of devastation because of that hurricane. But anyway, let's get back to the book. So, this is a midwife from the late 1700s, and this is historical fiction, guys. So, this woman existed. She was actually related to Clara Barton, you know, Red Cross woman. And, so I love Martha, this main character. Love her. I love her morals,
her values, the way she stood up for what was right, and was not scared of a fight. So basically starts off that, you know, we're in Maine and the river freezes, and it freezes hard, and a guy falls, you know, as it's freezing, a guy falls in, and when he is being rescued, he sees a dead man. So they cut the dead man out of the ice. So there's a whole thing going on. And I'm not going to go into any more of the book. I do want to mention a quote that I absolutely love. This is what it means to age. The days are long, but the years are short. I'm like, just something about that quote. I'm like, you said it, woman. Okay, character development, absolutely amazing. I would read anything else by this author. 5 stars, no doubt. She was so good in the character development that there is a man in there that early on in the book made my blood boil. Like, I can feel my blood pressure rising. Like, I can feel the anger inside of me because I despise who this man is so much. I don't despise like the character. I despise who the man is. Do you know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes when you're reading a book and you're just like, I just don't like this character. Like, I don't like the way this author has made this character. This is the opposite. I have envisioned this man, this character, I've envisioned him, and I despise him. Does that just make sense? Like, oh, just thinking about him. All right, take a deep breath, Dana. Take a deep breath. I gotta like get my blood pressure back down. Okay, so I am definitely going to put another poll up in February for you guys to choose 2 more books. I'm going to do it the exact same way. And, oh, I really look forward to it. And I have to read the book. Whatever book you guys pick, I have to read. So if you do not follow me on Instagram, please follow me because you're going to want to choose a book that I read. By the way, did you see my January TBR? Because this, you're watching this to find out, did I get to all those books or did I read different books instead? So hope you saw it. I have finished The Wild Inside. Again, perfect read for the winter. Now, you know, when this main character, when he's 14 years old, he goes on a camping trip with his dad at Glacier National Park, and his dad is killed by a grizzly bear. And of course that is very traumatizing to this 14-year-old. Years of therapy. He ends up going into like law enforcement investigations. He ends up getting called later in life to Glacier National Park because of a death. There is an investigation. There is of course a grizzly involved. And by the end of the book, this character is realizing that, you know, his whole life he has tried to take control over nature and things that happen in his life. And by the end, he realizes that he can let go of that control, that it's not him against nature, animals. People are much worse than animals. And then there's another character at the end that it just puts into perspective what people will do to survive in a pivotal moment and what they'll do to protect loved ones. So that being said, I only gave this book a 3, and that is because of the there was some animal cruelty in here that I didn't see was relevant to the story at all. And I'm not talking like cruelty to a bear either. I'm talking domesticated animals. And I had to
even though I like skipped through parts, you know, I had to read certain things to realize what was going on, and I didn't see that need at all. I do not read books that have, you know, I don't want to read books that have any type of animal cruelty in them. I don't eat mammals, for goodness sakes, okay? That just shows you. So, like I said, I didn't see that it was relevant in the book. I think the author could have went a different route. So that is why the book got a 3. If the author wouldn't have kept me engaged, then obviously it would have been less than a 3. But the author did keep me engaged enough to give it a 3. Well, I mean, obviously you already know that I love little tidbits. I love learning tidbits. And in this book, I found out that the electric chair was invented by a dentist in Buffalo. And that is another random fact brought to you today by the Mouse Diva. Okay, and the last book that I finished in January 2025 was Teddy and Booker T. This book got a 4 from me because I learned so much. I learned that Roosevelt did not want to be vice president. He said that would be boring. And actually, it ended up being boring for the short time that he was vice president. So McKinley was president when he was vice president. And you know, he was shot. He did live for like a week, I think, but he did end up passing. And so at the time that Roosevelt took over, at that point, he was the youngest president ever. When he was appointed president, well, let's go back. Before he was appointed president, him and Booker T. Washington had been corresponding, and they had been wanting for years to actually be able to sit down, to meet in person, to sit down and talk. And they actually had an appointment. They were going to end up doing that, but then he ended up having to take over presidency. So he actually wrote a letter, and they actually have a copy of the letter here, which I love. So it says Executive Mansion, Washington, Buffalo, New York, September 14th, 1901. My dear Washington, I write to you at once to say that, to my deep regret, my visit south must now be given up, because the thing was that Roosevelt wanted to come see Washington's school, you know, this school that he had worked so hard, raised so much money and built up. He wanted to come see that. When are you coming north? I must see you as soon as possible. I want to talk over the question of possible future appointments in the South, exactly on the lines of our last conversation together. Faithfully yours, Theodore Roosevelt. Eventually, Roosevelt invited Booker T to come eat with him. You know, he was already he hadn't been president long when he invited him to his dinner table. And Roosevelt got a lot of slack for that. A lot of people did not like the fact that he actually had invited a black man to his dinner table where his wife and daughters were eating, and things that back then that people actually thought it absolutely crazy. So like I said, I learned so much. I love that there were pictures in there, and I gave it a 4. I couldn't give it necessarily a 5. I don't know if I would ever give a non-fiction book a 5 just because it's non-fiction, but I take that back. My Writing Life by Pat Conroy, I read many years ago. That is a 5. Matter of fact, I want to read that again. I want to read that again. I need to read that again. But I gave that book away as a gift at some point. And I normally don't give my books away. I got to get another one of those. It was just so good. Anyway, So that is a wrap up for January. So I will be filming my February TBR very, very soon. So hit that bell notification button so you know that when that video is uploaded. I think I'm going to, obviously I'm going to have 2 nonfiction books on my TBR. And I think I'm probably going to have, I might have like a total of 8 or 9 this month. We'll see what happens. That's why you need to subscribe and stick around. Until the next page.